Welcome, my friends and enemies. Glad you are here. This is going to be a fun, random, mind-blowingly just, you'll feel your brain cells die, and you're going to look forward to it, because it's going to be somewhat entertaining how stupid the entire thing is, and we're going to watch a clip involving the legendary sports ball commentator, Beardo. For those of you not familiar with Beardo, maybe you've heard of Geeks and Gamers, Tuesday Night Main Event, that kind of stuff. Beardo's a fun guy. He's a funny guy. I like him, but he's wrong a lot of the time. It's fine that he's wrong, but he just doesn't like to be corrected or accept the truth, we'll say. So there was a bit of a kerfluffle section, a couple of them actually, but we're only going to watch one of them because it was the defined point in the 5-hour live stream. And I was like, we're not going to sit here and cover the whole thing for 5 hours and not. I mean, I could take a 1-minute short and turn it into a 3-hour video. So we're not going to do that this time. We're going to try to keep this as short and concise as possible, which I know for me is asking a lot, but we're going to attempt it. The wind goes where the wind blows. So, we're going to jump into this, and you guys give me some thought process, shall we? Make sure everything on my end is functioning, because it legendarily is known to not. But here we are. Sports Ball. Legendary commentator for Sports Ball, Beardo. Or Beardo, as he likes to do. That's probably not as good as his, but it is what it is. So, actually, before I get that going, I'm going to make sure I have the right time, because that would be embarrassing, wouldn't it? That'd be absolutely embarrassing to get to the point and then not have it be where it needs to be. Oh gosh, come on. Let me... I mean, we can try kind of just go from here. Because I'm a professional, guys. I had everything staked out, then I was like, oh shoot, I forgot to back it up. But we're okay, it's all good. So, here we go.
So, okay, by your qualifications, hold on, real quick. Okay.
Epic Mike's going to lead the charge on this. That's where I wanted it to be.
Beardo, just go through your points again. I'm not going to argue. Don't argue. Your points on what is required to be a sport. Okay. Team effort, you said.
You have to, team effort.
Okay.
Be doing something athletic.
Okay.
If you can smoke or drink alcohol while you're doing it, that's not a sport.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Based on what, though? Is that the governing body?
Wait.
No, I need to understand. So are you saying if you can physically...
All right. We're going to back it up just a smidgen.
Your points on what is required to be a sport.
We're going to take them one by one.
Team effort, you said.
You have to, team effort.
To be a sport does not require a team effort.
Okay.
We'll get to the definitions later, but I want to point out, sports do not require a team effort. His idea of teamwork is everybody not participating on the actual sport. Like, you're talking your bottle boy, your towel boy, your coach, your assistant coaches, whoever it is, any of those individuals, they count as a team. Now they count as staff, but staff's not the team. They don't play the game. They don't change the outcome of whatever the sport is. So, for example, you've got 90 plus people on a football team, professionally speaking, because you have your backups, you have your main lines, and you have all your backups or whatever. But then you have all the people on the sidelines that are there to hand out water bottles, keep people hydrated and whatnot. It's like, yes, they're team players in terms of they're helping those who are short on time quickly recover and whatnot, but they themselves are not going on the field and participating in the sports. They're not actually doing anything to affect the sport. They're affecting the predictability of what the player can or cannot do. They make sure that they got like physical trainers that are making sure that the stretching has been done, the warm-ups have been gotten, people are prepped, psyched up and ready to go. They're not freezing on their toes and whatnot. Like, they prepare them as best they can for it. But that's like saying, well, I went to, the spa or the sauna today at the gym, and I warmed up before my, game that I was playing. Basketball, hockey, soccer, football, whatever. So that means the people who run the gym are on my team. Therefore, we're a team. It's like, no. They get things prepped for you to help you. But the people who are on a team are players. Players are teams when it comes to the actual terminology and whatnot. So if you want a team, it's always going to say, you have so many people on the field, right? You have so many football players, so many soccer players. Now you have teammates who are players, but they're on the side because you have more than what you can actually hold. Like, for example, basketball. Basketball has 5 players on the court at one time, right? There are more than 5 players on the team. If you had 2 players, it would be a team. You have more than 5, so you have sideline players, that are also part of the team. But they're not active players. They are inactive players. Then you have the staff, which are not even inactive players. They have no possibility to become active players. They are an organization, not a team. Now, the team is part of an organization, but the organization is what prepares the team for a sport. This is obvious. This is common knowledge. I don't know why Beardo fights for this so hard. It's a bit wonky, but needless to say, if you're playing tennis and you are a solo tennis player and you have, I don't know, a wrist masseuse, a leg masseuse, whatever, you've got a ball boy, a ball girl, you've got towel boy, towel girl, whatever the situation might be. And 9 times out of 10, that's not even your team. That's like the ball boy and all that stuff. That's all provided by the court. It's not your own personal people. Like, you don't even know who they are. You're just interacting with them because you showed up. Those kids, they're there for multiple matches. They stand there, they run out, grab a ball, run back, whatever. They're not part of your team, but they do assist you. So there's a difference between an assistance, like assistance being given to a player, but if there's one player, and I'm surprised that nobody made this argument there, but they probably weren't thinking at the time, because to be fair, I wasn't either the first 4 times I watched this. But it kind of came to me, I was like, wow, players are not the same. If you have a single player game versus a multiplayer game, a multiplayer game is one in which you have a team, potentially. Usually means multiplayer can be PvP, PvE, PvPvE. There's a couple different ways you can do it, or PvPvP, whatever. In which you have multiple sides taking on. If you have a free-for-all, there's no team, but there's multiple players. They're just not on each other's side. They can make temporary alliances or whatever. They're still not on the same team. Team is separate from alliance and all that other stuff. Now, when you have a sport like basketball, football, hockey, soccer, those specifically have 2 sides, notoriously. When you get to wrestling, wrestling has a very complicated system that I still don't fully understand, so I'm trying to figure it out. But let's just say you could have more than 2 sides show up in any particular match. So, a team is when you have 2 or more player individuals operating together, pursuing a goal. Players, keyword.
Be doing something athletic.
Now, Ripa came in and also backed up this point, which kind of drove me nuts because I know Ripa's not he's active sports in a lot of ways. Like he plays basketball and he's done track and field and stuff like that in the past and whatnot. I don't think he does track and field right now because usually you can do a whole organization, but you can still play sports ball like basketball and street ball or maybe a mini league or something. I know he does that kind of stuff. So when it comes to athleticism, an athlete is different than a sports person, or rather a sports player. And we'll get to those definitions after, because we're gonna break this down one by one. But let's just say athleticism is not required inherently in the way that Beardo is trying to project it to be a sport. There's more nuance than he's going to give us.
Okay.
If you can smoke or drink alcohol while you're doing it, that's not a sport.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Based on
Wait,
what, though? Is
hold
that the
on,
governing body?
wait.
No, I need to understand. So are you saying if you can physically smoke and drink, or are you saying if the rules don't let you?
Correct. If the rules do not let you,
That has
if you are
no
in,
qualifier.
if you are in the fucking dugout or on the
See,
sideline,
that's where you lose me, because that's a
Has
governing
no-
body
that means
decision that has
nothing.
no impact on
I
the
don't fucking
sport.
care. I don't.
Beardo, I love you, man, but you not caring is irrelevant to something being a sport. You are not the arbiter of it being a sport or not. I'm not the arbiter of it being a sport or not. The definitions are the arbiter of if it being a sport or not. That's how things work. Define things, defined words, definitions. You are Beardo. You are defined as Beardo. We can't look over at Dan and say, Dan is Beardo. Well, by all definitions of Beardo, he's not. He's Dan. You're Beardo. But if he just said, I don't care what Beardo has to say. I'm Beardo. He's the imposter. I could see him doing that, but yeah. By that metric, you are no longer Beardo because somebody else disagreed with you, and that's the end of the discussion. You saying I don't care doesn't make any sense. But let's go back to even the prior to this. Being able to smoke or drink in a dugout or whatever, it's not a sport. That's not a definitional thing. It's nowhere. I looked. Sports, unless you drink or smoke. What? Is it not good for you? Sure. Is it meaning you're not playing a sport? No. Does it not mean you're a sports person? No. Does it not make you a player? No. Does it not make you a teammate? No. None of those things. Has zero impact. And this is where Jeremy correctly steps in and says, this is where you lost me. Because it lost me pretty hardcore. But I mean, I was lost at the first one. But an organization making specific rules, like for example, the NFL used to have pretty lenient rules. When you could hit people, how many, like what your visor had to look like. They didn't even have visors initially. They just had a leather knapsack you put on your head. And that was it. Like you had some pads here and there, but most of all it was just you, and you just boo, and you run into somebody, you clothesline them, whatever. And then they started adding guidelines. For protection reasons, some of them you could say, okay, I see that. And other things you're thinking, that is the dumbest thing on the planet. Namely the whole, you touch the QB, that's a flag. Like, that's just stupid. Have a better defensive or offensive line if you're going to complain about that. Or have your offensive line do their jobs. I've seen way too many of them not doing their jobs. Now, if an organization says, all right, in order to do this, you need to get the ball, using football, it's going to be punted or kickoff, I guess. It's going to be kicked off. Team's going to have to try to get it to the other end zone to score a touchdown or kick a field goal if they can't make it there in first, second, third, fourth down. Right? Like that's the rules. And then if it hits fourth down, it's a turnover from the spot. If you miss, if they kick a field goal and they miss, it's a turnover. But if they make it, it's all good. And then that's a kickoff, and then it repeats the process over and over again. That's the rules of the sport. And you have some minor rules on like what's a flag, what's not a flag, We're not going to go crazy into that detail because a lot of that could be considered arbitrary. We're trying to stick it to what football rules are, like how big of a yard, how many yards there are, yada yada. You have to get it between the goalposts if you're trying to kick a field goal or an extra point. How 2-point conversions work, all that jazz. I'm not trying to over sportsify this, but the purpose is to get the ball in the end zone. Can you do that? Yes. Could you do this with a cigarette in your mouth? Yes, but I would not recommend it. For one, it's going to kill your lungs, which is going to be what you need to breathe to get to the other side. Two, if that thing goes down your throat because somebody hits you and you, and then momentum's carrying you forward or whatever, and that sucker goes back, you're going to have a choking hazard and probably die. Very not recommended. But does it mean you're not playing the sport? No. It does not have any bearing on the sport whatsoever. It's pretty obvious. You have basketball players chucking alcohol. No, it's not good for them because they're going to dehydrate even faster. They're supposed to stay hydrated, and alcohol will naturally dehydrate you. Duh! Like, this is common knowledge, at least for people who are familiar with the medical stuff or sports in any shape or form. So, I would agree with Beardo that it's not a good or smart thing to do, but I would not agree with him that it automatically makes you not participating in the sport, or that the sport itself is not a sport because it allows those things. Like, imagine you're bowling. You don't need to stay crazy hydrated beyond the normal means, which you can drink water or beer or whatever. It's a pretty normal thing to go to a bowling alley and then have beer, and you drink your beer, you go roll a bowling ball, boom, bada beam. You hit, you win, you miss, you score, you whatever. Like, you do or you don't. It's pretty simple. But the skill involved of the player and the fact that the bowling pins are there and it's like, hey, don't go in the gutter unless it comes out of the gutter. Basically, the gutter will 9 times out of 10 jack up your ability to do your job to hit a strike or whatever. But on rare occasion, it'll come back out and hit a pin on the side or something, which may knock a bunch over. Who knows? But the idea is to get it down the lane and hit as many pins as you can without going across that line. That's the limitation. And then you have 2 chances to do it if you don't get it the first time. If you strike, great. If you get all but like a couple, or you hit one and the next time you hit all the rest of them, you get a spare, that kind of stuff. I mean, there's all the other minute details I'm not going to go into. I'm not a bowling expert. I just know how bowling works in generality. I've done it a few times, but I'm not a professional. I don't join a league or nothing. But the point is to hit the pins, just like the point in football is to score. Just like the point in basketball is to shoot into the hoop or slam dunk it, whatever. 3-pointer, 2-pointer, full quarter, whatever the case might be. That's the point. Ball in hoop. Score more points than your opponent, and you're done. Bada beam, bada boom. Pretty simple. Pretty cut and dry. Are we clear on this? How you get to that point, as long as it's in the rules, smoking and drinking will have 0 effect. I mean, getting drunk would probably be very problematic to your performance, which means you probably won't be out there very long. And you'll probably get sued by your team for breaking contract and being a bad representative for the company or the team's face or whatever. But it does not prevent you necessarily, inherently, to drink a whiskey or a bourbon on the field or on the court and then shoot a hoop. It's like, oh, I drank some bourbon, 3-pointer goes in, nothing's affected. It might eventually get inhibited in some shape or form, and it might eventually cause a problem, but it doesn't inherently cause a problem. So this is just a fake rule that Beardo made up for some reason. I don't know why. He perceives the world through his own mind, and that's fine, but that doesn't mean it's true.
I don't care.
Okay. Well, hold on, but I want to finish.
Okay,
I
go
don't
ahead,
care.
go ahead, go ahead, Mike, go
so
ahead.
No drinking or smoking. What else?
No drinking or smoking. You have to be doing something athletic. I do not consider playing darts, bowling, chess.
That's fine. I get it.
Those are not.
Okay, so darts, bowling, chess, billiards, pool, whatever. He doesn't consider those things sports. I've got some definitions at the end of this. We'll cover that, but by definition, they are sports. They fulfill all the requirements, and I mean, even if they had a sport like cornhole, and anybody who's alive could do it, whether there be a newborn or whether they be 2 steps away from death. Anybody there can do it. It's still a sport because of the definition, which we will get to. So I'm going to just pull this to the side.
And
Athletic.
it has to be a team effort. What else? Anything else?
He's making this up on the fly, by the way.
I mean, that pretty much sums it up.
That means
No matter how many times I watch this, it kills me. But again, Beardo, I love you, man. It's a bad take. It's a royally bad take. I'm a little surprised that Eric jumped on this with you, but he was also kind of cautious. Like, I'm not so sure. Like, I mean, I guess, yeah, by my understanding. It's like, yes, but your understanding is leaving out very important facts. We'll go with that.
professional wrestling is a sport.
Yeah, I would say that professional wrestling is a sporting
you
event.
said
Yeah.
it wasn't a sport.
You
When did I say
it
that?
wasn't. Yeah.
You
Said
said
at the beginning
multiple
when we
times that it's not
started
a
this
sport, that
whole
it's all
thing.
fake.
Yeah.
No, I
And that
said
it's
that
not
you
real.
guys were saying
Still
that it
real.
was.
This is one of Beardo's classic turn it around, which is great entertainment value, but it also gets really annoying when it's a serious topic.
Was
No,
it a
no,
sport?
no, 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 Beardo.
No,
you
because
have
we said
said.
Jeremy
Sports
said
entertainment.
no. Both of you guys
Rewind.
said that wrestling
Rewind the
wasn't
tape.
a sport.
I said it's
It's
sports
You guys said it
entertainment.
wasn't
I
sports
said it's
entertainment.
sports
I
entertainment.
would
say
doesn't
that
mean
it
it's not
is.
sport. But
I would
you
say that it
actually
is.
have said on multiple
Although
occasions
that there is
that
a
that is not a
predetermined
sport.
there is a predetermined outcome. What these mother
Most sports have a predetermined outcome because the people involved with it are trying to make money off of it. I mean, people make money. Something's going to be slightly rigged at least. So some aspects of every sport are predetermined. What those aspects are is in the ether on what organization system that has that in play.
fuckers are doing, if they're good,
But I would say wrestling, you're not betting on wrestling per se because you know who's winning and who's losing because it's a performance more like it's an athletic performance. And you could argue it is a sport because even Epic Mike would say it's sports entertainment. So they're doing a sport as if it did follow rules. It doesn't really follow rules, but it has rules, it has guidelines, it has a method in which you can or cannot pin somebody and all that type of stuff, who can and cannot get involved. It has rules where you can use a chair, and other ones you can't use a chair. You can use a table, you can use a ladder, you can use this, you can use that. Lots of ways you can get around things, but it's based off of rules and decides as long as they're following the rules and or the refs are not watching, you're good to go. But again, it's performative, it's not literal, if that makes sense.
they're doing something extremely athletic and they do have a fucking
Yeah, and when they do pick up somebody who's freaking like twice their size, that is athletic. I'll grant it. They work very hard to get their bodies into shape to be able to do that kind of stuff. Some people just have a natural body build like type, but they do work out. They do make sure they can perform. But it's an acrobatics skill. It's a weightlifting skill. It's like those kind of things. Like they're still professional athletes. It's just their professions pre-written.
team.
But
because
your
they have trainers and
argument falls
coaches.
apart because
Kata,
Steve
have you ever
Austin
played
was
organized
drinking
sports?
beer in wrestling.
Kata, have you ever played organized sports?
That is irrelevant to whether or not someone knows what an organized sport is. Organized sport literally just means people get together, organize, and do sport. That's literally it. That's literally it. Now you could say difference between professional, amateur. Sure, those are things that are different. But what you can't say is it's no sport because I don't think so. I don't agree. I think it's not. Like that doesn't matter. If Kata had never, ever, I mean ever done a sport, organized sport, no bearing on the argument whatsoever. You could have a philosopher that has never, ever, 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 ever once played a sport or even thought about sports. If he hears the argument, he's going to be like, that's wrong. Here's definition. That's wrong. Here's why. Bada bing, bada boom. Kind of what I'm trying to do now, but I'm not a professional philosopher.
Yes.
Steve
Ever.
Austin was drinking beer.
Yes.
Steve
Dude,
Austin
yeah,
was
he was
drinking beer on the
definitely
internet.
drinking
And then Beardo will swing it towards Kata.
There.
Tap dancing isn't a sport.
I used
No,
to
go back to
wrestle.
the
no,
Steve
no, 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 no,
Austin.
I mean, we'll get to that.
no, hold on.
Steve
'Cause I
Austin.
used to wrestle.
Another
Wrestling
beer.
is a sport, and that is a single person sport.
Wrestling is a
It
sport.
doesn't matter how
Wait,
good
did you
your
have a
coach is.
coach? Did you have a
It
coach?
And this is where we get to the problem of Beardo doesn't know what a team is as much as what a staff is. You can't separate the two because he thinks it's a conjoined effort. Now, I will agree, the effort to prepare and to keep prepared is joint because the players have to do... The player just can't lay there and then the staff come over, lift their arm and, you know, lift their leg, and then the player wins. That's not how that works. But it does prepare them for their activity. Because when you play football, the activity's on the field. It's on the turf. When you play soccer, it's on the field. It's on the turf. When you play basketball, it's on the court. When you play hockey, it's in the ice rink. There's set systems that are in place explicitly to separate the difference between the coach. Like, the coach cannot score. The coach can't even get on the ice in hockey. He's not supposed to get on the field in football and basketball or anything. He is not an active participant. He's a counselor. He counsels them with the best direction to take their plays, the best strategies to overwhelm their opponents. That is what a coach does. He advises. Now, he advises with authority, because if he comes in there and says, you're not doing this, they don't do it. And if they don't, he has the authority to tell them to sit their butts down, and somebody else who will do it go in. That's part of the system. But he keeps conflating everyone who's getting on a bus to drive to somebody else's game, so an away game for them, everybody who jumps on that bus is a team rather than managing. It's like saying, well, I live in a house, but my realtor is part of our team. He also has a stake because he found me my house. Or I'm renting from a realtor or a landlord through a realtor, so the realtor and the landlord are on my team. It's like, no. They helped you get to where you are, but you still have to do your part. You still have to pay your rent yourself. You don't tell them they have to pay their shares of your rent. That's ridiculous. But that's essentially what he's arguing.
Doesn't matter. Yes, it doesn't matter how good your coach is.
And yes, if you're wrestling one-on-one, it's a single individual sport. Single player, if you will. If you're doing a 2v2, that's a different story. Now it's a team sport because the outcome of your victory or loss is determined on whether you and your teammates overcome your opponents. That's how that works.
It doesn't matter about anybody
It
else.
doesn't matter how good your coach is. I would argue that it does matter.
It doesn't.
Well, I mean, if you had the worst coach in the world, but you had all the inborn talent naturally required to do whatever you have to do, no, it doesn't necessarily matter. But I would say that's 1 in probably 10 to 20 million chance you're getting that kind of inborn talent. And usually coaches are people who have the wisdom of either their prior athleticism days or they studied or worked underneath people who are much better at things than them at that time, and they themselves got better, and then they came to the table and said, here's what I want to bestow upon you players so you can do a good job. Go with that.
It doesn't.
I would argue that it does.
If you go out on the mat and you still suck, it doesn't matter if you have the best coach in the fucking game.
Which is true.
It's all on you.
I would.
But it's still a sport.
I would absolutely disagree.
Of course you would, but you have no basis nor foundation for that.
I think
if you have a good coach who knows what they're fucking doing, he can make you
a good
above
coach can
average.
help you. But if
No.
you're a good wrestler, you can be a good wrestler without a good coach.
Correct.
Exactly.
That's
you
true.
can have the best
That's
coach
true.
in the world and still suck at wrestling.
But
it's-
you're not
it's
going to
still on
fucking
you.
play. You're not going to go out there on a fucking meet.
If you're the only options available for some random school, yeah, you are.
Yes, you are, because it is a single person sport. If you're in the weight class, that's all on you.
And
But
with
it's still
wrestling, don't
No one's on the mat doing it with you. That's the point Kate is trying to make.
they also have fucking team points too for the school?
Sometimes.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
Thank
they do,
you.
yeah.
Thank you.
And if they do, that's because there's a team event for that sport. It's like saying, okay, well, I have a single player game and I have a multiplayer game. But there is no such thing as a single player game that has a multiplayer function. Incorrect, there are. There's plenty of games. You have a campaign mode and then you go into it, boom, you have a multiplayer where you can play in co-op mode, you can play against AI, normal AI, not the new AI stuff. Pre-programmed artificial intelligence. You can go up against players. You can go in tournaments. You can do a whole bunch of stuff. Like there's whole systems for this. We have free for all. You have deathmatch. You have team deathmatch. You've got capture the bag, capture the flag, a whole bunch of different varieties. This is a normal concept. But for some reason, we're struggling. And I don't know what's up with Beardo.
But it's still on
But-
you. It's still
yeah.
a single
Yeah,
sport
it's
where
on
you're
you, but
wrestling
when the
on you.
points tally
Yes.
up at the end, they're going towards the school.
Yes, but let's say you have, like, you don't send more than one volleyball team to a tournament. You don't. You send your team. And you're all participating at the same time, not separately. Now, I guess in some single individual player situations like wrestling for Kata, a school could send 3 or 4 or 5 or, excuse me, however many they allow. I'm not a wrestler, I wouldn't know. But that would determine whether or not that matters. Now, if the rules specify explicitly that out of your whole player, like let's say you have your best player becomes number 1 on the ranking list and everybody else is like 20th, 30th, and 50th. Odds are most sports do not have a system that says, well, we know you got first place, but because the rest of your team sucks, it's going to knock you guys down way far behind, so therefore you can't participate. If that's individual matches. Now, in volleyball or tennis or something of that nature, if you have a team, your performance together determines whether you go or not. Is the school going to... Now, if they have differences, you have a singles tennis and you have a doubles tennis. And if you have those two individual teams, or two sections, two events, they're two different activities and events. If the teams fails, the singles can still go and represent their school. The team's not going does not affect the single side going. That's how it works. You can argue with it all you want. You can say, I don't care. I don't care at all. Well, you don't have to care. Reality's reality. So, this is just a very weird take.
Yeah,
but as you and
Because
an
you're
individual, though-
representing the school. You're not
Thank
representing
you.
a fucking
Thank
team.
you. You just proved my point, Kata. Thank you.
no,
You're not
all I
The Delulu is strong with this one.
Wrestling is a team
no,
sport.
all you
You're
proved
representing
is
the
there's
school.
multiple people
School.
wrestling. That's all you proved. If you go out on the mat and you're wrestling, there's nobody else beside you wrestling with you. That's just you.
That'd be a little awkward if it was.
No, but if you
No, but no buts about it, buddy.
put up however many points in wrestling and then the next guy doesn't, the school is going to lose.
Not necessarily. Again, it depends on the activity and how the league operates. Most leagues operate off of individual paths. So if you have Kata showing up against some other person and Kata wins the bout, he advances. The other person typically does not. Now, there's a really weird string, and typically based in tournaments, where that person who lost could still technically make it into the finals or go to a bigger tournament or something. But it's usually pretty bad if you lose. You just get knocked down below the lower half 50%. The people who win are above the top 50%. So in other words, a lot of people who, if anybody beats you, you go down even further. Or no, you go down, and if they lose, then you go down even further. But if they go up and you start winning all your matches underneath them, you can technically still go up, just not as high as them. In a lot of tournaments. Not all of them operate that way, of course. I don't know how wrestling does. But very rarely is it you get a whole bunch of different variety of points and then you put them together and then the school wins. That's not how that works. Normally.
But that doesn't matter. If you're wrestling, you're
It
wrestling
does
by
matter.
yourself.
Do you want
said
to
it's
win?
a
Does the
team
school want to
sport and
win?
a
Do you
team
want to
Name a school or a player who doesn't want to win and they're participating in the sport, other than those who are forced to do so because they don't want to, but their parents or their teachers or something tell them to. Aside from those individuals, you're going to perform in what you enjoy doing. You're there to win. A lot of people want to have fun doing it, but they're there to win either regardless. So this is a non-issue.
win that meet? If the
It's
men's
not a
division
team
for your
effort
school,
when
for
you're
your high
doing a
school or
one-on-one
college,
wrestling.
if
That
you want to
doesn't make
win,
sense. All right, we
you are
gotta
relying
wrap
on the
this
person
up.
next to you to
Okay.
get enough
But
points so that
also,
you guys can win and
Beardo
qualify.
said that Beardo said that wrestling is a sport, but Steve Austin drinks on the job. Randy Orton used to smoke backstage all the time.
Sandman? Remember
Sandman?
Sandman?
We just proved him wrong.
Are they out
Yeah.
there?
That's Beardo's face. All right. So now that we've accomplished this, we're going to go over a couple. We're going to go over a couple definitions. I have three particular ones pulled up, and we will jump to them. So the first one is, you guessed it, sport. What is a sport? Sport is an activity involving physical exertion and skill that is governed by a set of rules or customs and often undertaken competitively. Such activities considered as a group. Now that usually involves that one's a bit weirder because it could involve an opponent and their opponent, or a protagonist antagonist kind of sport, like wrestling, like one-on-one. That's a group, but it's not really a group, it's a one-on-one. But group usually means that there's more than two people participating in the entirety of the event. In other words, you have how many clubs in soccer, how many football teams in football, how many basketball teams in basketball, how many teams in hockey, etc., etc. It's a group activity. It's a sport. A usually challenging activity undertaken for amusement. There you go. By that definition, sports entertainment, wrestling, it's a sport. Now, an activity involving physical exertion and skill that is governed by a set of rules or customs and often undertaken competitively. It means it doesn't have to necessarily inherently be competitive, but is often undertaken competitively. Now, I will say physical exertion in this instance is a bit of a doozy, because physical exertion can be literally anything. Like, that's physical exertion right there. The click of a mouse, physical exertion. Tapping my foot, physical exertion. It's pretty. What does that mean? We'll get to it, because I pulled that one up too. So let's go over to exertion. Exertion, the act of exerting. The act of putting into motion or action. This is exertion, and it's physical, so it's physical exertion. Effort, a striving, as or an exertion of strength or power, an exertion of the limbs or of the mind. The second one has synonyms, but that's not the actual definition. But I want to point out this last section, an exertion of the limbs or of the mind. Or of the mind. Now, things that take physical skill, like throwing a dart at a dartboard so far away, can take skill. Like, yeah, you could throw it without any skill whatsoever, and you might hit something cool. It's like, oh, I did it. But to do it professionally, you got to nail everything, that every point on that board you have to go for, you got to hit it precisely, which takes skill, not random luck. That's not how that works. Now, what would be a very interesting form of darts would be like if you had the board there and then they spun it. That'd be funny. Separate the men from the boys. But no, like billiards, you have to use the mind to plan your route. Football, you use your mind to plan your forms of attack and whatnot, your plays and all that stuff. Basketball, you have to use your mind to formulate who needs to go to what. It's not athletic to deduce something in your mind, in Beardo's terms, to pass the ball to the right person or to throw the ball to this wide receiver if there's multiples available for the plan. Like, that's not part of this. Exertion of the limbs or of the mind. The limbs, physical, movement, whatever. But the mind, chess, you could say billiards, pool, whatever. Any of the ones, he didn't think ping pong was a sport. He didn't think anything like, literally there's so many yard sports like bocce ball and whatnot. Like, they take skill. You got to land things in the same place. You got to exert the proper amount of power so you don't overshoot or undershoot. He doesn't think curling's a sport. Like, half of the stuff in the Olympics or the Winter Olympics, he doesn't consider a sport. So it's like, why? Well, I just don't think they are. I disagree with that. It's like, That's not a valid reason to do so, Beardo. You need to actually come up to a reason as to why. Now, as to another point of this, we have another definition. Since he likes to use this term, athletic or athleticism or be an athlete, let's look at the term. Athlete. Antiquated. One who contended for a prize in the public games of ancient Greece or Rome. This is important because an athlete is somebody participating in the public games of ancient Greece and Rome in the old times. That's what antiquated means. So, archery was an antiquated sport in the Olympics, in the public games in Greece and Rome. He doesn't know. He claims he doesn't know enough about it, but he didn't think that archery initially he didn't think that archery counted as a sport. But he got a lot of backlash for that. But I mean, he got a lot of backlash for everything. That one, he's kind of like, I don't know what to say on it. It's pretty obvious. It is. If you ever see somebody perform archery, in literally anything, watch a movie about medieval people, and they're like, "Ba-doing!" You're like, okay, well that looks really simple. Well, how heavy is that bow? 100 pound? 50 pound? What is it? Now these ones. 2 is typically where he goes. Anyone trained to contend in exercises requiring great physical agility and strength. One who has great activity and strength. A champion. He's like, yeah, Beardo. Like that's his thought process. But that's only one part of the definition. So shall we go to number 3? One fitted for or skilled in intellectual contests. Funny how that works. And as it defines there, athletes of debate. The skill of the mind. The debates of the mind. The philosophy. You get the idea. Now, what would fulfill this? Well, if you think about it, chess, physical exertion. You have to pick stuff up, pop your thing, pick something up, pop your thing. Repeat process, and you can do this at really high speed, depending on who your opponent is and how much you have planned out. Or you can do this at pretty low speed and not exert nearly as much as quickly, but you're still exerting something. Like moving your arm is exertion. If you do this 100 times, your arm will eventually get tired. Probably sooner rather than later if you're not used to it, because that's not how your body muscles typically work on an average use. Now, chess is intellectual for the most part. Anybody can lift up a pawn and move it in the first play. Or, I guess you could technically say, a knight as well. However, being able to see 10, 15, 100 moves ahead, that's a bit different. Being able to read your opponent's moves and have your moves preset to counter and oppose them, but in a winning strategy, is not a very difficult thing. Now, for those of you who didn't watch that Tuesday Night Main Event, I'll have a link to it in the description if you want all 5 hours. But in this video, one of the other iDots, part of the 199, put in an actual picture of them with a, I guess now a playmate, a model person, but who is also a chess champion. Female. And she's like, chess is absolutely a sport. Now, technically speaking, just because she said so does not make it true. However, the definitions do back her up. So that is a problem for Beardo. In a lot of ways, actually. But to be intellectual or to be of great physical agility and strength are the requirements to be an athlete. And you can technically do both of these at the same time. It is possible. This is one of the reasons I thought Rippo was kind of shocked me when he came in later on and basically thinks of athletes similar to Beardo, where you're running, you're jumping, you're being physical with your opponent, like football, basketball, hockey, whatever. That's not necessarily the same thing. Typically, sports are separated by categories of what type of people. Like, I would argue that a midfielder in soccer would run circles around a basketball player any day. Why? Well, a midfielder runs a ginormous soccer field, goes all the way to the front, all the way to the back, all the way to the front, all the way to the back. Repeat the process for hours. Basketball players got this really, really tiny court. It's not that big. It's not even like half the size of a freaking soccer field. You'd have to take 4, if not more, basketball fields. Probably way more, actually, now that I think about it. Probably like 12 basketball fields in order to make a single soccer field in terms of like professional. It's a big difference in size. And I'm talking the actual inbound lines, like the part where they actually play, and not the rest of the whole stadium. I'm not conflating stadiums or anything. I'm conflating particular legal play size definitions. Just because they can outrun them doesn't mean that the basketball athletes are not athletes or less of athletes. They're just athletes in a different category. They're not specialized in other sports. And also, just because that soccer midfielder can run circles around a basketball player doesn't mean he can shoot, doesn't mean he can dunk, doesn't mean he can do anything good, doesn't mean he can dribble, doesn't mean he can pass, doesn't mean he can catch a pass. None of that makes the soccer player any less of an athlete than the basketball player, and vice versa to every other sport. Just because you don't excel in one does not mean you're not an athlete. It just means you're not an athlete in that area. Period. It's a categorization error. Now, to answer Beardo's question earlier, is like, have you ever played organized sports? Yes, 14 years of soccer. And I did cross country, track, and I also did some basketball. Not very much basketball, but I wasn't really into it. But 14 years of soccer, cross country, track, all that kind of stuff. Not necessarily on the same level as Ripa, but similar sports type stuff. So yes, I am aware of what sports do or do not participate in and how you can or cannot function. However, it still doesn't matter. I could have 0 experience in sports and still be correct about this. But I'm not correct because I deem myself correct or anybody else deems me correct. I'm correct because the definitions tell me I'm correct. So when somebody asks you, what is a sport? Consider this documentary I have made in under an hour, hopefully. It's looking like under an hour. And call it, what is a sport? Bahai Domen of the questioners. Pip pip cheerio. But anyway, I think we'll go ahead and call that for the video here, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you enjoyed that. It's fun taking a piss at a somebody, but I mean, again, I love Beardo. He's fun. He's entertaining. He's different, but not in a bad way necessarily. Although the only failing I'd say he does have is that he refuses to be corrected and accept the correction and just be like, okay, I was wrong. I'll reaffirm my stance when I figure out what the stance should be at or whatever. Or like if he's like, no, 2 + 2 is 5, and you're like, no, 2 + 2 is 4, and you show him the evidence and how the math works and he still refuses, that's a problem. But if he says, sure, now that I see the evidence, I'll adjust my viewpoint, that could be a good thing. Now, Jeremy probably doesn't want that because he wouldn't get as much entertainment or grifting out of it. I get that. I'm a natural when it comes to diving into so much detail that it annoys people, which sometimes generates entertainment. So, in that regard, hopefully you guys found this entertaining, fun, whatever. Like, comment, subscribe, any of that stuff that you deem me worthy of. I appreciate all of it, including your view and your time. I know your time is precious, and you chose to spend it here with me, so from the bottom of my heart, I thank you very much. Also, check the description if you want to see the original video, as well as hit me up on my socials, all that fun jazz. Check out the content creators that I think you should check out. There's a whole list of them down there that I painstakingly put in those descriptions every single time, because YouTube doesn't know how to keep them there with the hyperlinks attached to their names. So it's really irritating, but go check them out. Also, below that, check out some businesses I think are good to support if you're in those areas of needing business done. So, thanks everybody. And remember, my friends, walk in the light.